What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Today we're going to be going over our Week 4 matchup versus the New Orleans Saints. But before we do get into it, I have a couple things that I want to talk about. First and foremost, Luke G's, a field review, invited me to be at the Detroit Sports Roundtable tonight at 8 p.m. So he reached out last night and asked, and he was very, nice and very supportive of my channel, and I really appreciate that. So if you are watching that, I really appreciate that. Thank you so very much for that. I will leave a link to his channel in the description. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. He does a lot of Lions content also, and he's, does a very good job. If you have not seen the other videos going over our week 1, 2, and 3 matchups, and you don't want the record spoiled, I would suggest you go back and watch those now and come back to this video later. And obviously, if you are new to the channel and have not subscribed yet and are enjoying the content, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with a Lions or an NFL fan. But with that being said, let's get into our Week 4 matchups against the Saints. So the Lions play the Saints in Week 4. They are coming home from Arizona at Detroit. They are 3-0 currently. They've beaten the Bears, the Packers, and the Arizona Cardinals. Spirits are pretty high in Detroit, and everybody's coming in thinking the Lions could be a very big threat in the NFC this season. This isn't very important, but I thought I would look at our last game that we played against the Saints. It was in 2017, and the Saints won 52-38. This was a wildly entertaining game. The Saints looked like they were going to blow us out in the beginning, and then the second half, the Lions started to come back, and there was pick sixes on both sides. There were kick returns. There was a lot of turnovers, a lot of big plays. This was one of the more entertaining games of the 2017 season. And unfortunately, the Lions did lose, but I thought I would mention that. Not that it has a huge impact. I just wanted to say, the last time we played them and how it turned out. Unfortunately, we did lose, but it was still a wildly entertaining game. If you haven't seen that game, go look it up, go watch it, because it's a very entertaining game, and there's no real sports on right now. So if you want an entertaining game, I would go watch that one. That one was very good. Going over key losses for each team. The Lions obviously lost 2 offensive linemen this year. They lost Graham Glasgow and Ricky Wagner, both playing on the right side of the offensive line. And I think that those are going to be big losses. I don't think Ricky Wagner was that good of a player. Personally, I don't think that he was a great right tackle, and I was actually glad we got rid of him. But Graham Glasgow, I thought, was a very good guard. I thought that he was, very reliable, didn't allow a lot of pressure, was, just very good at his job. But I think Jonah Jackson could definitely replace him. I think that he might not do as good of a job, but I think that he will do a pretty good job for the Detroit Lions. And then we obviously signed Big V in free agency to kind of replace Rick Wagner. Big V graded out a lot higher than Rick Wagner and everything, but he also didn't play as much. So we'll have to see how that turns out. And then obviously we lost Darius Slay in our secondary. This was probably the biggest blow to us this offseason, but I think we did a good job replacing it with our cornerbacks. As far as the Saints go, they lost a couple of key pieces. Obviously, one of those being Teddy Bridgewater, their backup quarterback. Drew Brees got hurt early in the season last year, and Teddy had to come in, and he did a very good job. He won 5 games for the Saints out of 5 games he played, and that got him a 3-year deal in Carolina to be the starting quarterback there. So I don't know if Drew Brees is going to be hurt by week 4 again, but I wouldn't expect him to. He doesn't get hurt too often, and I would expect Drew Brees to be playing. And the unfortunate thing about playing them in week 4 is Drew Brees usually starts the season pretty hot. He kind of cools off near playoffs, which is why they sometimes sputter out in the playoffs, and it seems like they just can't win big games. But by the end of the season, Drew Brees just isn't the same quarterback that he is in the beginning of the season. And I think that's what's really hurt the Saints in the past as far as playoffs go. But obviously we're playing him in week 4, and week 4 he's generally still pretty good. He's playing at that high level that he's used to playing at, and the decline doesn't really happen until like week 10 or 11 or so. So I thought I would mention that. They lost Von Bell, their starting safety. They lost Eli Apple, a starting cornerback, and Larry Warford, the former Detroit Lion. They cut him this offseason to, I think, save cap space. There's some rumors going around that, maybe the Lions look to bring back Larry Warford. Personally, I think we have guys on the roster to, do a good enough job. I don't think we need to pay Larry Warford a lot of money to come in and be a guard for the Detroit Lions. He wasn't great in Detroit, obviously. That's why we let him go. So, I mean, I didn't watch him a whole lot. Larry Warford was kind of a Lion before I really got into being a Lions fan. But obviously he wasn't good enough to keep around, so I don't know if we would even be interested in bringing him back. But that was kind of a rumor after he got cut, whether we should bring him back or not. Um, so those are kind of the four key guys that the Saints lost. All of these guys contributed for the Saints last year. Most of them were starters. Teddy Bridgewater started 5 games, obviously, and was probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Um, some key additions for the Detroit Lions. I'm gonna say the cornerbacks, obviously, to replace Darius Slay. Because we needed against this Saints passing game, especially after they added some of the pieces they did. Nick Williams was a free agent from the Bears that we picked up. I think that he's going to help our pass rush a little bit. And I think that we're going to need good pass rush and good disruption against the Saints if we want even a chance of winning this game. Um, and then obviously I will say the guards, Big V, Logan Stenberg, and Jonah Jackson. Well, the offensive linemen, I should say. Big V, Jonah Jackson, and Logan Stenberg. They have to come in and be very good starters if, we want to be able to run the ball. If we want to be able to protect Matthew Stafford, they have to be good and solid in pass and run, in the pass and run game. And I think that they definitely can be, but it's definitely a guessing game. Obviously, nobody knows because they haven't played together before. Big V's played in the NFL, but he's not played with the Lions before. He's never been a full-time starter. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Some key additions for the New Orleans Saints would be obviously Malcolm Jenkins is coming back to New Orleans. He's a great leader. He's a good football player. His play dropped a little bit last season. He's kind of getting up there in age where his athletic ability is starting to leave him a little bit, but I still think that he is good enough, athletic enough, smart enough, and a good enough leader to start for the New Orleans Saints and have an impact for them. I think he'll replace Von Bell. I think that Von Bell obviously has more athleticism. I think that Von Bell is a better athlete than Malcolm Jenkins, but I think Malcolm Jenkins is one of the smarter safeties in the NFL. I think that if anybody could deal with that, aging process, that athletic loss, it would be him just because he's so smart. He reads the field very well. And obviously he is a good football player on top of that. The Saints also brought in Emmanuel Sanders to be a wide receiver 2 next to Michael Thomas. And I think this was a very good move for the New Orleans Saints. I don't know who their wide receiver 2 was last year, but Emmanuel Sanders had a very good season with Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers, who are more of a running team anyway. So put him with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. He won't be on the number 1 cornerback because Michael Thomas will have that guy shadow him. So Emmanuel Sanders will be on a number 2 cornerback or in the slot. And I think this was a very good signing. I think this is a very good destination for Emmanuel Sanders. I think that he's going to put up big numbers with Drew Brees this year. And I think that this is going to be, a pretty big test for the Lions. Can we stop these guys, through the air? And then, obviously, I wanted to mention that they signed Jameis Winston as a backup quarterback to replace Teddy Bridgewater. I think that Jameis Winston is a worse NFL quarterback than Teddy. I think that he just is turnover prone. I think that he throws a lot of boneheaded interceptions, but he also throws a lot of passes in tight windows that, he completes and everybody is like, oh my God, how did he do that? And then he goes back and throws a stupid interception and people say, oh my God, why would he do that? But I think that he could be a pretty good backup. I mean, I don't think he's a bad quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, if you pass for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, you can obviously do good things in the NFL. He just has to cut back on some of those turnovers. And if anybody can help him, I think it'll be Sean Payton. Sean Payton is one of the better coaches in the NFL. He's one of the better game callers, game planners. He obviously has a very good scheme for his players. He uses his players to the maximum potential that they can be. And I think that he's one of the better coaches in the NFL when it comes to building around your players and building a scheme that fits and helps you win every Sunday. Some key matchups that I think that need to be watched are obviously, again, the wide receivers versus our secondary. Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and those guys against Jeffrey Okudah and Desmond Trufant. I want to see how those guys match up with each other, see who shadows who follows who, and if our cornerbacks can keep up with arguably one of the better wide receiver duos in the NFL. Now that I'm actually looking at it, our cornerbacks have a very tough job in the first 4 weeks because they have to go against DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams and Devin Funches and Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald and now Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders and Allen Robinson in week 1. I mean, we're going to be tested early, and if they can if they can hold their own against these 4 games, I have confidence that they can be a very good duo in the NFL. And I think we'll know how our secondary is going to look after week 4, because obviously we're being tested heavily in the secondary in the first 4 weeks with all those big name wide receivers that I mentioned. But I also think that a key matchup to look at is going to be running backs versus linebackers in space. I'll be interested to see how Demario Davis and Zach Bond deal with DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson in space, because both of those guys are shifty running backs. A lot of those guys both of those guys make you miss in space. They make you look silly, and I'll be very interested to see if they can do that against a pretty good linebacking duo in New Orleans. And then on the flip side, I want to see if Jamie Collins and Jelani Tavai and Jared Davis could deal with Alvin Kamara in space. Alvin Kamara is obviously one of the best running backs in the NFL, one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. I'll be interested to see if our linebacking core can deal with Alvin Kamara and how they plan against slowing him down. Obviously, if we could take away Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, I think that we'll have a good chance of winning. But obviously, when you have 2 stars like that, it's tough to take away both. Because if you scheme to take away one, the other can burn you. And if you scheme to take away the one that's burning you, the other one can obviously take advantage of that and make you pay for that also. Unfortunately, I think the Saints are a better team than the Detroit Lions this season. I think they have a better head coach. I like Matt Patricia. I think that he has some good qualities as a head coach, but he hasn't shown that he has the ability to win a lot of football games in the NFL yet. And part of that is that he didn't have the roster. Now I think he does have the roster to win games. But I think Sean Payton's more experienced. I think he knows his roster a little bit better. I think that he has had more time to build exactly what he wants. I don't know how long he's been in New Orleans, but it's been a very long time, over a decade at least. And I think that Sean Payton is the better head coach. I think that the Saints are they're a more complete team than the Lions. I think they're a better team than the Detroit Lions. And unfortunately, I think that we will drop this game. I think we will go into our bye week 3-1. Obviously 3-1 is not a bad record. That could still be good enough to be winning the NFC North at that point. I think that it'll be a pretty close game. I think that it'll be, obviously if we scheme to take away Alvin Kamara, it could definitely turn into a shootout. But I think that we also have the talent to hold some of that on defense. So obviously it'll be tough to tell right now. When it gets a little closer, I'll probably make another video when we have a little bit more information on how our secondary and our defense is playing as a whole, how our offense is playing as a whole. But just looking at it on paper, I think that the Saints are better than the Lions. I think that the Saints will take this one, but I don't think the Lions are going to make it easy. I think the Lions are going to fight and scratch and claw their way all the way to the end. But I think that the Saints will have enough talent on the team, and I think that they will end up pulling this one out, which is unfortunate, but obviously 3-1 is not a bad record. That's as many wins as we had last year altogether. And going into week 5, maybe this is even a good thing for the Lions, because they'll come out of their bye week hungrier than ever to get a win. Obviously, I think they come out of their bye versus Jacksonville. A weaker team in the NFL. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be mad. They're going to be, ready to go hunt. And I think that the loss is going to suck. It's going to sting for a little bit, but I think in the long run, it might actually help the Lions, because, they're on a high right now. They're 3-0 going into the game, and they, are going to think, not necessarily that they're better than everybody, but they're going to be on a high thinking, we're 3-0. We're a very good football team. Maybe we don't have to practice as hard. And then they're going to get beat against the Saints, and then they're going to come back in the bye week and think, dang, we got to work even harder to prove that we are a good team in the NFL. So, I think that is going to happen. I think that we're going to drop a game here, and it's going to suck. We're going to go in, have a full bye week of that losing feeling. Everybody's going to get fired up for the next game, and I think we're going to come out swinging against whoever we play in week 6. But that is all I have for today. That is kind of what I think is going to happen. Let me know if you disagree or agree. I like the Lions. I think they have a very good team, but unfortunately, I think the Saints are just a better constructed and a better run football team than the Detroit Lions at this point in time. But, that's going to happen. You're not going to beat everybody. And unfortunately, this is a game that I think the Detroit Lions will drop. Um, so that is my opinion. That is what I think is going to happen. If you disagree, let me know in the comments below. Obviously, if you want to hear a little bit more from me today, I will be on Luke G's field review, his roundtable for the Detroit sports at 8 p.m. today. I will I will put a link in the description to his channel so you can go and watch that. But until then, I will see everybody later. I appreciate all the support, all the recent, subs and likes and views. I appreciate everybody that's helping me out, everybody that's supporting me. This community is amazing, and I'm very appreciative to everybody that has reached out recently and just congratulated me and helped me out. And, I just really appreciate all that from everybody. So thank you, everybody, for that. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see everybody next time there is Lions news. Thank you guys for everything, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.